Hey guys, welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and appreciate you guys checking out today's video. Guys, today I want to talk about the most dangerous lakes that I have ever fished in my entire 40-year professional fishing career. There's been quite a few of them, and when you're talking about a dangerous lake, there's a lot of different things that sort of they fall under. It can be rough water, it can be obstacles in the water that are inherently dangerous, just a combination of things that make navigation in those things super dangerous. And I've had a lot of experiences with that. I'm sort of going to go over some of the experiences I had and talk about maybe a dozen different bodies of water across the country that are just freaking dangerous under the certain conditions. So we're going to get into that in today's video. Out here in the truck today, guys, we got a snow day. The kids are out. You can see they're all out sledding here behind the YMCA. So it gives me a chance to do the video while I'm watching the kids use the sleds here a little bit. Also, guys, before we get started real quick on the video here, just want to invite everybody, if you haven't had a chance, to please consider hitting that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling. And also, guys, in preparation for the live stream that I'm going to be beginning on Intuitive Angling, all you have to do if you're interested in becoming part of the live stream, the private live stream, just sign up to be either a channel member of Intuitive Angling by hitting that join button on my homepage, or go into the description and sign up to the Patreon program. And you can be able to watch all the live stream coverage that we're going to have. Probably do a live stream about once a week or so. So hope to see you guys there, and appreciate everybody that's been signing up for that. Okay, guys, I've been on a lot of dangerous bodies of water as far as my boat. You know, I've ran my boat across the Gulf of Mexico. I fished most of the Great Lakes that are out there, most of the larger bodies of water in the country, most of the ones that are really not marked very well. So I sort of want to go over what I consider some of the most dangerous bodies of water in the country, not in any particular order, but in terms of stuff in the water and, you know, rough water and such. Okay, one of the first ones is Sam Rayburn Lake in Texas. Sam Rayburn Lake, it's sort of unique because there's several different types of dangers that you have on Sam Rayburn. Number one, Sam Rayburn can get extremely rough on a north or south wind, especially a north wind. If you got a really strong north wind on Sam Rayburn, or south wind too, that lake stacks up north to south, and those waves get big and they get tight on Rayburn. And I've seen some freaking giant tight waves on that place. So, and boats swamped. I've seen a lot of boats swamped on Rayburn. So that's the dangerous element. And another thing about Rayburn that a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of big, giant timber that is just underneath the water level that is not in the channel on Sam Rayburn Lake. I'll give you a prime example, guys. About the last tournament I was down there in I think it was 2018 or something, FLW tournament. I had just got my new boat, and it was the first morning of practice. It was the first day I ever had it in the water, and I was coming out of this big creek, and I was literally, I idled almost to the middle of the creek out there, and I've got my GPS on, so I'm staying right in the creek channel, and there's no timber around me, but, you know, occasionally you could see a piece here and there. So I'm staying right in the middle of the GPS boat lane of the creek channel to make sure that I'm safe. And I get up on plane, and I probably went, 100 feet, guys, and I freaking nailed a big tree that was just right underneath the water, bent my prop shaft, trashed my prop, bent the skag on my lower unit. So Sam Rayburn has a lot of those deadheads in the creeks up there that are like, I don't know if they're in the channel or what, but they're unmarked, and they're all over the place, and they're big. So Rayburn's a pretty dangerous lake. Next one is, like I said, you've got to classify all the Great Lakes together in terms of giant waves. The primary two lakes that I have fished more than anything else has been Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, and they are basically like small oceans. And if you get any type of a wind over about 15 miles an hour sustained, it kicks up giant waves on those lakes in the middle of them. Depending upon what part of the lake you're in, as far as the depth of it, will depend on the size of the wave. But if you get like I said, a strong wind on the Great Lakes, something in the 20 to 25 mile an hour zone, you're looking at 8 to 10 foot waves out there. And I've been in them several times, but even though they're big, it's not as dangerous running the Great Lakes as it is a lot of other lakes, because the waves in the Great Lakes they're spaced very far apart. So even though some of them are really big, they're navigable. You can run them in a bass boat because it's almost like surfing over these giant swells. It's not like they're capping over the top of them unless the wind is really howling, like 30, 40 miles an hour, something like that. And I did go out on Lake Erie one time just to see what it was like in like a 45 or 50 mile an hour wind. I went out just far enough into the lake because I wanted to see what it was like. And once I got a couple miles out in there, you know, there were some 8 or 10 footers, but they were building and they were starting to come over the top. They were starting to fold over on the top. That's when I turned around and went back into the harbor. But I just wanted to see what that was like. So you can't ever discount the Great Lakes. A couple others out there, and these all fall into the same category in terms of what I consider tight waves. Now, tight waves certain lakes are set up that they generate tight waves, tight, dangerous waves. And in my opinion, a tight, dangerous wave is the worst kind. It's the most dangerous wave. And a prime example of two lakes that I can think about right off the bat are Lake Mead in Nevada and Lake Murray in South Carolina, because these lakes, a lot of them, they have some big water that lay north to south on them. And what happens if you get a strong, sustained wind, specifically out of the north, the way that the lake funnels through there, it stacks these waves up very high and very short together. So you may have a wave that's like 4 to 5 foot high, but they're really, really close together and they're breaking over the top. That is the most dangerous wave to run in a bass boat. I'd rather have a 10 or 12 foot wave on Lake Erie or Lake Ontario in my bass boat than I would to have a 4 or 5 foot wave on Lake Mead or Lake Murray or something like that that's tight together, because you can't do anything with them. If you try to run the troughs on them and they break over the top, it'll fill your boat with water. They're so tight and big that they're hard to run with them or against them. Extremely dangerous in those type of situations. So if you have a lake that has a large opening that lays north to south, and especially if that opening has some deep water in it, that can be some really, really dangerous waters, you know. So, you know, those are just two that come to my mind right off the bat with it. Other lakes out there, sort of some honorable mentions, places like the Red River in Louisiana there. It's got a lot of timber that has not been cut out and not been marked. There's a lot of deadheads on those. The Mississippi River, the main Mississippi River, is extremely dangerous. I've run it several times in tournaments, anywhere between Memphis, Tennessee, and all the way down to Greenville, Mississippi. Anywhere along the Mississippi River is extremely dangerous. You've got floating stuff in the water everywhere. You've got wing dams that aren't marked that run out way in the lake. You've got big whirlpools. One of the most scariest situations I've ever been in a bass boat is when I was running down the Mississippi, you know, launching out of Memphis, Tennessee. And I was going, you know, in the boat I had a Ranger 518, and there's a 5 mile an hour current. So I was going like 72 miles an hour, which is, you know, with the current, I was freaking hauling it down there. And I went underneath this big bridge, and I got about 100 yards underneath this bridge, past it. And I look up in front of me, and I'm going fast, and it came up on me real soon. And all I saw was this huge freaking whirlpool right in front of me. The thing was probably 20 foot in diameter. And my boat went right, and it came up on me so quick I couldn't even get out of the way. And my boat dropped down like 3 or 4 feet and went, you know, sideways like that as I went through the whirlpool and popped up the other side. But it was like a big drain in the water. It was like, and I went through it so fast, and I had to go through. If I would have went through it idling, it'd probably sucked me down into it. But that was one of the most scary situations I've ever had in a bass boat, Mississippi River there. And there's others out there. You know, every lake has the potential to be dangerous if you catch it in the wrong situation or you're not paying attention to what you're doing. But those are some of the most dangerous ones, guys. Some of the most dangerous things that you're going to encounter on the water is fog. If you're running in fog, what I call floating deadheads. In other words, after a big flood or something, you'll have a lot of big trees that are floating down the lake, and sometimes these trees are like that far underneath the water. I've seen guys lose their lower units on those things. So any type of floating stuff is going to be dangerous. Any type of submerged timber. If you've got big submerged timber in a lake, that's dangerous. And also, wing dams can be really dangerous. So anyway, guys, be safe out there. I mean, the best thing that you can do in any situation like that is pay close attention to the weather, slow down. Don't if you do not trust your skills as a boat driver, don't chance it. You have to know your limitations. And most anglers have never experienced dangerous big water, and it takes a lot of skill to navigate it. Because if you are like myself and you fish professionally for 40 years all over the country, you've been in that type of stuff. You got the experience to know how to handle it. But don't ever get out one of those situations unless you know what you're doing. And you have to know your limits in a bass boat, because that's when people, wind up getting hurt if they don't. So anyway, guys, hope interesting video there. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk later.